everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Jennifer. I'm a curator from the National Gallery Singapore, and I've been invited today to be the moderator of this panel discussion. So thank you again for joining us in this panel discussion held in relation to the exhibitions Otherworlds, non/digital realities. So non-realities, digital realities. The exhibition is presented as part of the Singapore Art Week 2021 at Gillman Barracks. So it is closing tomorrow on Sunday, 31st of January. So please go see the exhibition if you have not. And if you're unable to catch it in person, do check out the project details and the online components on the Instinct website. So that's www.instinc.com. So now let me introduce the panelists before we discuss more about the exhibition and also today's panel's topic, which is the art world after COVID-19. We will try to do a Q&A, perhaps open to the attendees, the public here towards the end as well, depending on our time. All right, so I'm not sure how everyone's view is, but maybe after I say your name, dear panelists, I'll give a short intro and then you can also just say hello. So I think your screen will then pop up to the audience, yeah? Okay. So first, let's start with the curator of the show, Hilda Chan, based in Hong Kong, always aims to foster cross-disciplinary collaborations in her project. So Hilda, hi.
Hello, hi, nice meeting you.
Right, next we have Debbie. Debbie Ding is a visual artist and technologist who uses prototyping as a strategy for artistic production and to iteratively explore potential dead ends in the pursuit of knowledge. So Debbie.
Hello, hi, Debbie here, yes.
Right. All right, next up, Gabriel Leung, a multidisciplinary artist based in Hong Kong. So his practice isolates the poetic from tensions between fragments and the whole, while embracing uncertainty and suspending its impact on human conditions. Gabriel, please.
Hello, happy to be here.
Right. Now, next, Eugene from Dude, an artist and a programmer who founded Dude Studios, an art and tech collective of artists and coders who can build anything. Eugene.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yim Sui Fong, a cross-disciplinary artist living and working in Hong Kong, who co-founded the artist-run organization Rooftop Institute, and also a member of L-Sub, a Hong Kong art group. So her works explore various kinds of uneasiness people face in society and examines the relationship between individuality and collectiveness. Sui Fong, if you are still with us, please say hello. If not, say hello later when you join back online. We're all quite new to this online talk thing. We're speaking across 3 different cities today, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Rome. Yeah. So next up, we have Shih Yun. Yeo Shih Yun is an artist who is known to reinterpret the medium of ink painting with striking results. She's also the founder of Instinct, an artist-run institution based in Singapore. So the vision of Instinct anchors in a collaboration and connection with regional and international art ties. And it also has a long-running residency program, which unfortunately have to be put on hold at the moment because of the worldwide pandemic. And that leads us to Chiara Passa from Rome, who I learned from Shih Yun had actually wanted to be in Singapore to participate in this Instinct-run residency program. So we're very happy to have you join us virtually today, even though you can't be here with us in person. We hope once the world situation clears up, you could be in Singapore and we can finally meet in person.
Thank you.
All right. I hope Sui Fong comes back soon. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us today. So now a little bit about the exhibition, which I took from the curatorial extract. So Otherworlds, non/digital realities is a mixed reality exhibition responding to the new challenges faced by the art world, where the usual mode of presenting and viewing art is disturbed by the current global situation. So beyond a simulation of the physical reality, the VR session within this show also acts to expand the physical realm, adding new perspectives and meanings to each of the artistic concepts. So there are 8 artists from Hong Kong and from Singapore participating in this exhibition, curated by Hilda. And combining their practices with this aspect of VR immersion and interactivity, perhaps I will pass on to Hilda to talk more about this project, and then later expand it to everyone else to talk about the challenges behind in putting this project together with all the different social restrictions and travel restrictions. And lastly, I would really love to hear from Chiara as well, because Chiara is sort of one of the first artists internationally who actually dabble into this genre of working in virtual spaces or analyzing the virtual spaces, using various techniques and devices. So perhaps Chiara could also share with us your thoughts on the project, or as much as you've learned about the project so far. So Hilda, please.
So since the beginning of 2020, so last year, so I have been starting to meet with Shih Yun, Elaine, and about how to put up an exhibition during the pandemic. So because we have been doing exchange in Hong Kong, so we really want to do a version in Singapore. So the idea is how to show works during the pandemic time, and if we cannot travel to Singapore, how could we present the works? So when we start selecting the artists, or when we start thinking about a concept, we want to include a wide range of discipline. So it would be some artists, they might be working on something more traditional, like a traditional medium, like painting and drawing. And we might have someone working in a digital media, say photography, and we have someone who are more savvy and experienced in working on digital media and the VR medium. And we would like to see how each of the artists translate the concept from the physical show to the virtual reality and online, and also how to make sure that the VR and the online version, it's an extension from the physical exhibition. So it's not like directly a replica or like a documentation of the physical exhibition where we see a lot these days. So we are thinking of how to utilize and take advantage of each of the atmosphere of the physical show, where usually you can see the work in person. So you can see the tactile detail of the actual work, and you can experience the space directly. Whereas the VR space and the online space, it's the online space, like right now it's like a flat screen space where we use the mouse and the keyboard to interact, and the VR cave is like really immersive, and then you can like go to another world and then experience the world at the work differently. Yeah, so this is our emphasis, is to translate the different concepts so that it works in different worlds. Yeah, so in a way it is an experimentation. So we want to able to showcase the latest technology, the VR technology, with the helps of dudes. But at the same time, we are okay for the artists to experiment and to see what makes sense for their work. Yeah, so it is how the VR technology and the online technology kind of complement and helps with the concept. So like just not for the sake of doing something for the VR platform.
So perhaps on that, Hilda, could you share with us more about the exhibition? I noticed at the show, once you enter, there's the intro panel that you see, and there's also a quote by Philip K. Dick. Mm-hmm. I remember I wrote it down. Reality is just a point of view. I mean, perhaps most of us are also quite familiar that, you know, Philip is a very well-known American sci-fi writer. So I was wondering, curatorially, you know, perhaps were you reading his materials, you know, what did that sci-fi literature kind of form and inform this this thinking or project?
Yeah, I was thinking a lot like what it means by other worlds. So how will it look like when we trying to construct this world? Will it has like four walls like the physical space? So I think when we are trying to discuss and decide on a direction, we think of what is like possible and what is the future, and yeah, how does like you know, what is beyond our imagination? You know, somehow because the VR world is like could be quite different from the physical world. So I think you know, the physical laws might not be directly applied to it. So yeah, I really feel that it will be something quite special we can explore about. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I also learned from Shih Yun that the team from Hong Kong had originally wanted to come over, like it was a planned trip to come over here to install everything so we can all be together. Perhaps Hilda, you know, Gabriel, Sui Fong, you know, the Hong Kong team could also share a bit about that, the challenges behind of not being here to put up your work, please.
Yeah. In an ideal situation is all of us can go to Singapore and actually meet the Singapore team and the Singapore artists, and then you know the audience and the space directly. Yeah, so we planned the show since the early 2020, and then you know, we have been thinking kind of have like two plans, plan A and plan B, like what if we can actually come or what if we are not. So but like at time proceed, and it is like becoming clear that it might not be possible for us to come. So that's when we are starting to, you know, kind of focus on the show with a stronger online and VR components. And I think planning is really the key, but because usually when during setup, it will be kind of ideal to be in the physical space where you can experience the space and then move around the works to fit in the space, even though you might have we might have already have a floor plan in mind. But you know, usually there's like the real situation where, you know, things might not fall into the plan. So I think for me the main challenges is like not be able to be at the space, but at the same time I think the technology with now with a Zoom and then the online meeting, it becomes easier for us to collaborate like this as well. So yeah.
Maybe we hear from Gabriel and Sui Fong as well. Gabriel, you're still on mute.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, we totally, honestly, it's disappointing in a way that we cannot come, of course, but we totally trust the Singapore team to also put up the show. And there are aspects where we can prepare, you know, where to put certain things, mark up distance, for example. But in terms of feeling the scale, like Hilda just said, you can't really go into the space, feel the scale, and make judgment to change, like fine tuning. So that has to be left to the Singapore team as well, their expertise and their artistic judgment. I think the scariest thing for me was that when just chatting with Hilda, the possibility of not even having a physical show. Yeah, that was the scariest thing to me, because I kind of work more traditionally, and VR was quite new to me. So if that actually happens, and how does the work carry over, maintaining the ideas and all that kind of the important things, the core, it was my concern. So luckily we still had a great physical show, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah, follow Gabriel. What Gabriel mentioned is actually the experience online, in the website, on the physical, and on the physically, the cave, the bodily interactions is where is actually three kind of experience. And how do you link up it with your single work and want to give other to tell about the concept of your work. It is a challenge for me. And also like in the beginning, we are if there's only 3 hour versions, then you have lots of strategy. How can I tell a story through this? So we are like changing a lot of what happened next. This is the most challenging thing in not only in this show, but in many shows in Hong Kong also. What is next today, tomorrow, I mean. So this is very challenging. So for me, I have put the effort more on prepare the show, and like on site, I trust the Singapore team, their sensitivity to how do they compensate my absence in the space. So this is very important, and lots of collaboration asks you to think about in this time.
So perhaps on that note, we will hear a bit more from the Singapore side then, the Singapore team. Shih Yun, Eugene, Debbie, please.
Maybe I can share with the kind of actual setting up, like although the Hong Kong artists did a lot of really skilled documentation where they want, but sometimes in the actual space and the floor plan, they do vary. Like suddenly there's a pillar there, or the pillar is not there, and the pillar cannot be drilled because the pillar is a heritage pillar in this Gilman barracks, and then suddenly there's a plug here, and then but we wanted the plug here, but the plug is actually opposite. All these issues suddenly pop up, and we kind of have to be quick on the spot and to call the artist or call Hilda on the spot to kind of come up with creative solutions for hanging their work in a physical space. So that is kind of the challenge, and even we can use my phone to call them on WhatsApp video. What they can see is quite limited, it's just through the screen on their phone. And it's also different from how we experience in the on-site. What they can see is only on the phone. So there's many levels of the challenges. But I feel that on the VR part, because the medium is digital, and the artists from Hong Kong can communicate with Dukes via Zoom. And when Duke complete their work, they can upload the work also online, and the artists can actually check. And I feel that when the platform is digital and using technology like Zoom, it actually matches very well, and it seems to be quite seamless. And the challenge is not so much of that, but how to translate the vision of the artist into the digital format, into the VR vision. Yeah. But in terms of the communication, I think it's quite smooth. Yeah, compared to the physical setup.
Maybe I can go next as well to share. So because for me, it's not, although I often work with digital, I also in the past, most of my shows involve some physical setup also. They're still presented in the physical world. There's physical material. I spend time arranging physical things. Even if I work with something, I also work with the digital. I suppose for me also working, I haven't really shown many game type works in the past. I've never shown any game, only done in Unity works. So actually working, it was for me also working in something new that also I wasn't entirely sure how long I would take. I felt like this is quite hard for me to tell how long I was going to take to develop my end of it, because it's a bit it's not like a normal project where you can define the perimeters sometimes. You want to get a certain effect. How long does it take to achieve that effect? It's a bit harder for me to also plan a timeline. So I also tried to keep my setup pretty simple so that actually I could maximize my development time. I think but this Zoom, and we always communicate online as well. And I thought it was kind of funny because we still have those like weird moments, like I think when I came to the opening, you were all doing this tour, and I think Beatrice handed me the laptop in the middle while holding Bino and trying to change the nappy. It was like, the kind of like the meetings in the gallery, you still have that, with the Zoom. It's kind of it creates this unusual meeting still, that maybe, even though you think this wouldn't happen because we're in different countries, it's still possible, which I didn't think would be possible.
Yeah, so for me, working on this project, one of the challenges was that It is Singapore Art Week. So there's like multiple other projects. I'm sure each of us, we at least have two to three shows happening at the same time for this week. So luckily at Dude we have a team, so I can split the workload to a couple of people. So the main person who worked on this was Shao, who has worked on this is his fourth VR cave project. So we have set up two immersive rooms. That's we actually call it immersive rooms, but Shih Yun called it the cave. It's a cooler name than this very tacky immersive room that we called it, because we set it up at nursing homes, and then we let the elderly interact and exercise and explore the virtual world with these immersive rooms. So he was very experienced with that already. I guess also one of the challenges for me as an artist is to let go of my own control, because I usually like to do everything myself. So now that I have a team, uh, sometimes I will try to like handhold them and then like, okay, you have to do it this way, and then like get everything pixel perfect. But I'm trying to like let things go, like how the Hong Kong artists, you guys have like completely let Shih Yun and everybody to take the creative freedom to make the minor adjustments of the sensitivity. I've also learned to let go of that and let Shao take some control. So he also has some art background. He was in theater. He directed several plays, so he has very good, strong storytelling, script writing experience. So with a lot of the artists, they were telling stories also. So it is about telling stories through this immersive rooms. So for ours, right, we were in charge of making two types of mediums. One of them is for the cave, which is a physical installation to explore this digital world. And then the second one is a purely web version one. So these are actually, it would kind of almost times two the workload, because each of them is a slightly different kind of interaction. One of them is using the mouse. One of them is using a mouse and keyboard, and it's on the screen, and sometimes the phone. And then the other one is using hand gestures, where the user does not touch anything. So it is kind of the same project, but not the same. So, and then just now, Hilda was talking about that these projects, they are not supposed to be like copy paste of whatever the artwork is. To me, I think in the end it will not be copy paste, because the medium and the interaction is completely different. I'm very happy to see that most of the works are actually extensions. You guys have worked with Shao, talked with him, and then managed to make completely new work. So that's something very heartening, to not see a copy paste documentation style, which is what Hilda was talking about.
So perhaps with this first experience, would you guys say there's a second project like this similar, and same team, maybe a different subject matter, maybe different forms of digital realities that you like to explore, but you still need to say to further develop this VR component, to have this what's becoming a catch term in Singapore, the physical and digital sort of experience. Is there anything you guys will do differently? Maybe something you have learned, or something you have reflected on, something that you think like, I would like to explore, but not sure yet, but I've been thinking about it,
Yeah, actually, this is my first ever show curated for the VR platform. So I think I've learned a lot about what technology can do, and so first of all, I think the technology aspect is like I think the artists or from the curatorial aspect, we always have something in mind. So perhaps at the beginning, I was envisioned that say when the visitors they go to the VR exhibition or the online exhibition, is it like people like floating around, or is it like a a Second Life type of like game environment where there's like different spaces being set up? I think there's like a lot of ways we can do it. So right now I think the way we do it this time is each artist they have their own environment, so to fit into the concept. So something I might want to explore or experiment is like, if how would someone all the works fit into the same world online, if it is possible, or should we rely on like an existing platform, or should we build a new one? Say, for example, at the beginning we talked about perhaps should we incorporate that to Second Life, but we are not sure if a lot of people use that. So there's like a lot of process how we want to have this final product gets. But at the beginning, we didn't know what exactly it will become. So the VR aspect and the online aspect is like something that we kind of let go and set loose to have it become whatever it will. Rely on the expertise of dudes.
Yeah, I think maybe to add on that, I think the VR cave only makes sense if we have a side-by-side physical exhibition. Because when a lot of people talk about AR exhibitions, they are thinking about wearing the VR goggles, Oculus, and then they experience the whole thing online. You don't even need to step out of your house. But I think these days, I think we are still most of the people who own actually a VR goggles are mostly gamers. So not many people actually have a VR goggles at home. Yeah, so to actually do that, I think we might kind of need to wait like a few more years when there are more people that are buying all these goggles. So then we can actually have a 100% VR exhibition, at the comfort of your house.
Yeah.
But a VR cave, why we chose to do a VR cave in this exhibition, Otherworlds, is because we can actually do it contactless, and it's more hygienic than passing around the goggles. Yeah, so that's what I want to add.
Oh yes. Also for me to add, the term virtual reality, we are using it a bit loosely here because just in case all the other technical people are gonna come and catch us and say, hey, that's not VR, because the cave is technically not VR, because the virtual reality that people understand is with the headset put on.
Yep.
So with our cave, it is more of a solution to address the hygiene issues of virtual reality. Because if we were really to do virtual reality, it would be setting up of several headsets there, and then letting the users each try it on, and then after they try it on, the headset will be a bit sweaty and yucky, and then you pass it to the next person. So that one is the real VR. So for our case, we can use VR because we can use the word VR because it's actually an alternative. For hygiene reasons, for immersive reasons, we are using this setup, which is an immersive room kind of setup. So that's why we're still calling it virtual reality.
Maybe to say actually it's a virtual environment, because
virtual environment,
like cave automatic virtual environment, and the cave word is like Plato's allegory of the cave, where there are these prisoners trapped in a cave, and they see these shadows on the wall, and they think it's this is the whole world, this is what the thing is in the whole world. But actually then the philosopher comes in and says, actually you didn't realize that all these were just shadows, this is not the real world. But of course the prisoners are like, yes, this is the whole world for us, we're happy with it. So this is a environment that we see. That's where it comes from my perspective. Actually, sorry. I a lot of people that I make 2 gameplay works during Singapore Art Week, and I think the thing that people ask me, and maybe also when we think about Second Life, is the multiplayer dimension. So if I imagine where this would go next, it would be, how do you could we actually play it all together, on Twitch? Could we make a version like that, a multiplayer? Oh dear, yeah. Sorry for the freak out, but thinking of that, the playing with multiplayer, how we also play and scream. Oh no, I have a really angry
Yeah, so multiplayer definitely, maybe more gaming components could be something to go forward to.
Exactly. I think the problem with the VR is it's not that people don't have headsets, it's because we don't make great content yet for it. So people can't justify buying it. So it's kind of chicken egg, like if no one makes an awesome, like lots of interesting art, then no one's going to no one's actually going to buy a headset as well. So what comes first?
Yeah, exactly. The huge
Great,
debate.
great.
which
Phil
one
Fong,
comes
you look
first.
like you have something to add. And Gabriel.
Yeah, I think for me, in this show, I think lots about what you should see on the web, what you should expect. The web interaction is more like a mouse over interaction for me, and then your attention for the target audiences, they may be looking for some more fast, they have more shorter attentions. And then in the spatial one, in the physical one, you are really there. That is more about your spatial experience. And then in the cave, it is immersive. And then it is more about your gesture, because to set up the interaction is just by waving hand, it's more bodily experience. So for my work, I have think a lot of how I should arrange this experience for the work. For example, my work is called Avatar. It is actually a term online. It's a virtual realm term. It's about the icon or something represent you in the internet. So, but I take this term back to to represent your companion in the real world. But now because of the pandemic, you are separated. So how can we feel each other? So my work is suggesting to use a recall method. The virtual method is in your head, recall, remember, call back your memory. So so in the physical exhibition so I have a big decision is I don't want to show the video online, because that will it will completely different, because it's not entertaining, it's not like a film. It's really need a spatial environment to construct the atmosphere for you to communicate what I mean in the content. So at quite a last moment, I say I have no video online. It really cannot make sense for the work. This is one important decision. The other important decision is in the cave. Like actually, I think Debbie worked really well because the horizons in her work, and also in the Unity, if you have a horizon, you feel more. After I see Debbie works, I think she will do really well to make use of the medium. But I didn't think like this because I didn't know lah. But I was more treat the cave as a extension of the work of the avatar. Is the idea is how can you keep your gesture in your daily life to remember someone. So the cave is I'm thinking more about how the gesture can give you a bodily memory. So this is my decision for how to arrange all the content.
Maybe I can also add on to Sui Fong, like why you decide not to show your film just on the web version is because I think she worked with Hilda and they really picked a really good location for her work. It's a very intimate space, it's a long space, and she worked with like different screen and like a plastic screen in front, and when the projector project the projection actually dissolves or disperses the light. So it becomes like a really beautiful, it's not just a very ordinary squarish rectangle video, but it has like a lot of interesting tones of blue dispersing. So you have to be in the space to experience. And if you're looking from a website or on your computer, on your phone, you totally lose what she's trying to express. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a good example where the three different mediums, so the physical space and the VR cave and the online platform, where, I mean, it can be a standalone. So I mean, even though without say for someone who cannot be at a physical show, they can experience part of it. It is still be fine. But I think we also want to say that, like, if you can have the entire experience, you can like experience all the different aspects. So yeah, so I think at the same time it's part of the same concept, but like yeah, it still needs to be a standalone, even though like if someone cannot experience the other components.
So I make the web version more like a trailer or the audio guide, like a podcast to prepare you to, if I trust memory can recall your connection. How about I just take away all the visual, just the voice and description? Can it recall this memory? And also I make the content, because I have lots of question in the video. I take the question into like a game or like a interactions. You can mouse over or typing to rethink about what does the question ask. For example, what do you think about following? Do you feel danger, something like this? And then you the interaction is you have to follow the computer to type, and then you know what the computer is saying. Yeah, something like this.
Yeah, I think from Xiu Fong's work, right, all three of them is very different. All three mediums.
So different.
If you
So
look at
lots
them,
of hard work.
yeah.
For dude.
And even for her online version, there are 9 different interactions. Is that the
9,
one?
yes.
Yeah, but only respond to the mouse over and typing. Yeah.
And the typing. So hers was is really using a lot of the medium, pushing each medium was pushed in their own direction.
Yeah. See if please go and see if it works.
Hey, what about Gabriel?
I think mine was like completely opposite. I think Xiao was like, he always tells me, yours is simple. I'm gonna get it done, but it's probably gonna be last. Because my way of working was quite traditional, and I think I was trying to wrap my head around this whole virtual reality thing. What I can allow to be diluted in the work, and what can be strengthened. And that's always been the juggle between my judgment. So I think I was going quite on the kind of safer side to make sure that what I think is important in the work to come back to life in the other versions. The sound being one side being order and chaos and moving around, and you will feel a louder volume of one side as opposed to the other. But I think something that can be quite similar to Sui Fong's, where the senses, how people perceive the work based on visual, based on sound, taking away certain senses and adding on to it. I think the physical, the VR has different advantage of doing that, and using those as a vehicle to help the work, I think was one of the biggest decision making for me. So I think that's the main way of how I tackle the whole thing. But to me, the biggest challenge, I think, is also the openness of the medium. Like every time you ask dude, if you guys can do certain things, they always say, yes, I can do anything. These are simple, these are easy. And that's also the difficult part, is that everything is possible. All the dimensions, the time, there's no gravity. And then even technically they can do everything. So it's good and bad. And so we have to, as artists, we have to think of new framework and limitations to maintain the work in its original form in terms of concept. So.
And for you, like as aesthetically, so for the physical exhibition, it's like also banner hanging from the roof. So because you have been using the form of like banner or hanging fabric as part of your practice, to incorporate your image-based work. So say, and also in the VR or the online version, so you still want to maintain that kind of like that look of that like fabric hanging down, but using kind of like different, like kind of the different movements for your medium.
Yeah. I couldn't think of other ways to translate that and also still hold up the idea. So I think I kept most of it, but basically adding more the rapid changes of images, so that even visually you feel more of an impact in terms of the chaotic side. But the hanging and the room and the atmosphere of a gallery still kind of stays. I think even Dude did a good way of translating the fabric movement into the VR as well. So that was a nice touch.
I think yours was the closest to documentation, but there is still a fundamental difference in terms of interaction, because the physical version of yours, we can't see the animation, the cloth things changing, and then you can't hear the sound. So yours visually, if you just took a screenshot of it, it looks the most the same. It looks the same, just that the movement, the interaction is making use of the medium.
Yeah, a screenshot looks like my original proposal.
Yeah. You just
Most
take
successful
you just take a still, it looks like a documentation.
Like a mock-up.
But it isn't a straightforward documentation. Yeah, I
Right.
guess speaking on Charles' behalf, for all of the works, I think he was exploring a lot of new things, even for him, that he has never done before. Like Xiu Fong, he was doing you had a sentence for people to type and then to follow. So he was thinking on his feet, figuring it out, and I think he did those fairly quickly. The most challenging one was surprisingly Shih Yun's one, which was to do with simulating that smoky ink fluid that is of Shih Yun's medium. That was the most challenging. He was he was spending 3 weeks trying to get it right, and it still wasn't quite there yet. So I had to tell him, okay, maybe you're spending too much time on this one. We finish the rest first. Then if you have discovered a new way of doing the smoky feeling, then come back to Shun's one. I think finally in the end, it is almost there. I think can pass already, but there's still a bit visually a bit off. Still a bit off, but it's almost there. What do you think, Shuyun?
Yeah, actually, the thing is because it's interesting is my work is really a digital work, but it's done by another programmer and using another program called Touch Designer. But then right now they are using Unity, so we can't actually take the data from the Touch Designer to into Unity. So they have to kind of redo everything, and doing like what that I got to know, doing liquid is actually really, really, really difficult to make liquid in the digital form. So actually what I wanted to do in the VRK, because I also didn't want people to wear, the brain sensor, because my work is about using, translating my brain waves into the digital ink painting. And of course, again, because of the hygiene reasons, we don't want, to be real time and then let every participant wear my brain sensor. It's going to be very, gross, So I wanted it to be more, because what you see my original work is very two-dimensional. It's quite flat, but of course the liquid effect is very well done. You can see the tones of black and it really looked like ink. But I wanted it to be more 3D, so when you go to the cave, you can actually disrupt the waves. So you are like in my inkscape. As a participant, you can use your gesture and you interact with the waves. So, and in a 3D form, but it couldn't be done. And then we actually explore using particles, you know. So instead of liquid, can we actually use really small balls like sphere to create the waves? And then again, it didn't look like, it didn't have that kind of effect that I wanted. So we actually, you know, did many rounds, and then still I kind of didn't like it. So in the end, we still came, you know, we concluded with a solution that is also quite flat, but it kind of have more feel of a Chinese ink, you know. And when the user move, you can actually disrupt the ink. So, but it's to me kind of it's sad that it cannot be three-dimensional, because when you think about Unity, you know, it's such a powerful game developing program, and you are supposed to create an environment that is three-dimensional. It's not to create something so flat, you know. Yeah, but then I guess there's always a compromise, you know, like you can't get, yeah, because there's time constraint, and then there's like so many artists work that deals have to do. So because of the limited time and resources, we have to kind of come to this conclusion. Yeah, but I'm quite happy with the interaction and how the ink flows.
Okay, I also curious, because I say for Shih Yun, you also have another installation set up at another venue in Singapore at this time. So that would be like a more kind of like a physical painting process for you, and this is digital. So what would be the working process different in terms for you? For like
I think the main difference is control. You know, like for whatever that is done by my hands with brush, with the real Chinese ink, I have like 100% control. Like I can control everything, each brush stroke, what tools to use, what paper to use, how long the paper, everything is controlled, and there is no question and no ambiguity. But then working in this form and collaborating with you is I have no control. Like I can only art direct, you know, by showing them samples, by showing them videos, and seeing what, you know, they come out, and then we just like critique from there. So it's really like a collaboration, you know, and takes much longer time, because you need to, because no one can really understand you. Like even you show some samples or even you communicate, they are not your brain, so they don't really understand 100%. And so you have to ding dong and, you know, to and fro, and it's quite tedious and definitely very time consuming. Yeah.
So on that note of transferring between physical and digital realms, perhaps we'll hear from Chiara. Chiara is a visual artist, Italian, now in Rome, who analyzes virtual spaces through a variety of techniques and devices. So I understand that Chiara has first used tools available in the 90s to produce video installations with an immersive experience already. That's like more than 2 decades ago in a way. And you've also coined the term super place to categorize these dynamic places that in your digital art. And also later on in the 2000s, 2009, you've also founded the Widget Art Gallery, which is a virtual gallery space that exists in an app on your mobile device. So with that wealth of experience, Chiara, please, could you share with us your thoughts with all the challenges that has been laid out and shared by everybody, but also perhaps your critical perspective on this project as well, because along the way, we've also did our best to share with you the photographs or videos or, you know, the website of the project. So please, over to you.
Okay, thank you for having me in this interesting panel today. Of course, you know that I haven't had the occasion to see the exhibition in person, but our lives nowadays are even more diluted in between virtual and real space through a variety of techniques, technologies, and devices. The COVID period generated in all of us the awareness that we need as well virtual shows as a necessary extension to enhance the potential of the real exhibitions. For example, many people can't go physically to visit a show, so it's good to digitally extend a venue, an opening, recreating the experience of the gallery. And I really hope we that we can still have digital show after the pandemic period for many reasons. And I have some curiosities, some questions to Hilda. Have you thought of asking artists to create native digital virtual reality works of art instead of a translation or interpretation of the real ones, like net artists did more than 20 years ago, for example, creating virtual reality artworks acting directly in the virtual space. Because in artworks where virtual reality simulates a purely intuitive space, the onlookers become blind and hyper-seeing at the same time. Blind because we lose any Cartesian coordinate, and hyper-seeing because we are able to see over the artwork. We find ourselves as completely immersed and involved into the artwork itself, and we are no longer limited to the mere observation. So I'm asking, what can be the ontology of vision, of fruition in a simulated show or work of art, instead of creating a native digital artwork? And for example, I was using the cave in the mid-90s. So your choice, I understood your choice to using the cave now, because I understood that it is a connection between the real show and the virtual one you have done in Steam later. I see the cave like a kind of connection in your case, but I was using the cave where there wasn't anything related to wearable virtual reality, because we speak of virtual reality, like Debbie said before, when we can wear the device. So the cave is a kind of simulated environment for VR. It's kind of virtual reality, like video mapping for shaking up the static notion of architecture or place by interacting into a cube. I mean, but it's not properly a virtual reality in the sense. So these are my curiosities. So Hilda, can you explain what behind the ontology of vision of fruition in a simulation?
I think because, well, actually, even before the pandemic, I think there are becoming there are a lot of interest of people starting to incorporate, on the online environment for, for a gallery setting or even for an art fair. So actually, actually, I work at a commercial gallery during the day. So I think people or collectors or like visitors, they are becoming very accustomed of like, receiving a PDF. We would be like taking photos of the painting and then translate it directly online. But at the same time, I feel that that is like, I think, one aspect of presenting the artwork. But I think there are like, like way more different layers to present works. And also at the same time, it's like, it's like, the video and the cinema. This is like a kind of immersive cinema where we can, experience like a, interactive and online atmosphere of such work. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think I also want to see more about, different medium or different types of artists, using a different technique to develop their own concept. So I think maybe for some people, this is entirely new and feel that this is like irrelevant to the process. But I feel that it's just like an art tool and a platform for people to play around. And I think, this kind of collaboration between the engineer and then with the, between different countries is very special as well. So I think with just the physical exhibition, it might not be possible to achieve that. So I think we are being here and be able to, work and try to collaborate and, make something really new and like relevant to what's going on right now. I find it very special.
Okay, I can understand you. I have been working with technologies for a long time, since 1997, and since VR experiments were very far from the art tracks and therefore related only to a small groups. I had to wait many years to see how many technological experiences in art, in digital art, are now increasingly reconsidered by the art system and are now the subject of several studies and publications in Europe now. It's happening right now. In this last month, I have been included in 5 books in this last month. But it's been more than 20 years we are working with.
I hear you, because like normally it would be a very different scene, right? So I mean, there would be artists and group working on with the digital media, and then people working in a like more traditional setting, or like the gallery and art system. Yeah, I hear what you mean. That it seems like it's finally like merging, or people starting to know that like the other side exists and how actually can incorporate like with each other. Yeah.
I have another question for Debbie, because of course, how many people visited the STEAM exhibition, the VR exhibition? Do you know? Do you already know? I guess during the lockdown, I took part in different exhibitions, but conceived for purely virtual spaces, like the net art I mentioned it before. So hosting native digital artworks for site-specific VR spaces. But we were using Mozilla Hubs instead of Unity. Mozilla Hubs is a browser showing virtual reality contents on the web at diverse levels. It's very simple, because with Unity, you presume that the public must have an headset, an Oculus Rift or the Vive, etc. Mozilla Hubs is more easy to use, because at the first level, the user can simply navigate through the 3D browser space and interacting with the digital artworks. At the second level, the spectator, using a cheap 3D viewer, like for example Google Cardboard or similars, can watch and navigate the show at 360 degrees. At the end, the tiered mode, it's wearing an headset like the Oculus Rift or Vive, and it's possible to navigate, watch, and interact with sensors in the wall, ambient, and artworks. So finally, virtual reality arrived on the web. Why did you use the Unity instead of, for example, a browser open to everyone?
That's an interesting question. For me, I mean, talking about the technologies I've used also in the past, I actually got started mainly in Flash, which is now dead. And also, if I were to make a web, I could have made it as a web app, but for me, the way actually, I think when we talk about artists becoming tooled with this technology, for me, I was trying to figure out what's the fastest way to build it, really, and get and also to think of the idea as simply as possible, because I wanted to be able to build it on my end. I guess, being able to build in Unity is also the accumulation of years of trying to get those skills to build it in it. 3D, doing the 3D, you need to do 3D modeling, you need to be able to touch up the models you put in. I felt like, I only became more serious in using Unity in the last year, or the last year or so, because also I took the certification. There's a cert you can take to be a certified developer, but so that also, like, they explain the code. You have to go through like basically a coding class for it, understanding how the lighting system works, how animation, how the audio, all the different parts that go into it, rigging, all the lots of things go into making something for 3D game engine, and this already takes quite some time for most people to pick up over the years. I mean, it only happened that all these came together, and so now I find it was fastest for me to build in Unity to realize the idea. I suppose for artists that's the challenge, because I've been slowly trying to chip away to get to that point, because if I don't know how to make it, I can't really experiment with the medium. I can't really make the artwork, in the same way. Like I think what I hear the other artists also saying is about currently it's still a translation. And what Shin was saying, so that she doesn't have that control yet. But it does the things that I also should say I didn't start off as someone working with tech alone. My degree was in literature, so I was mainly a writer. Yeah, and so it was over time that I finally I decided I wanted to learn these things so I could build my own weird non-games, in a way. Yeah.
Okay, I can understand you because for my personal project, I use Unity too. But when I have to go to exhibit, for example, in a public space, in a gallery, but for remotely projects, I prefer to open the project via web.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot also about how would I make it so that I could share the project more easily. Definitely the thing about headsets is a big problem, because not everyone's going to have it.
Yes.
Not only is it's not sometimes people are excited when they see a show just because they've never tried the tech. They're not interested in the content yet because they don't know what is VR. That is for them the novelty. So you don't know whether they are interested in the work or they're interested in the tech that they haven't experienced, they haven't had a chance to experience. So that can be a bit hard to detangle, especially when you try to ask people how you would change the work, how you would improve the work also. Yeah. But it's really interesting to hear from your perspective, having worked in it and seeing also this kind of increased, kind of interest over the last few months, or last year because of the pandemic. I also find it strange that that we had all these things available to us, but people haven't really gotten into them or didn't really explore them as much until now, when it was all available at disposal to be forced. I personally think that when people ask me, Debbie, why do you work in the digital? I always get asked that as a media artist in Singapore. They ask me, why do you decide to work in the digital? Actually, it's part of my everyday life. That's why my work is built this way, I feel. So I almost don't want to draw that line. So I also imagine that I hope that artists also won't be like will be okay exploring it, even if it involves technology or the digital, because that's also part of the things we experience like now, the everyday life, talking to people on Zoom, everyday life, how we interact with the world. Yeah.
Oh, fun fact, Debbie was my teacher in school. So I totally agree with her, not because she's my teacher and she taught me all this, but because I'm also a tech artist. I dabble in tech, very familiar with tech, and I'm also an artist. I think, Debbie, your version is going on to the web also, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Her version is actually going onto WebGL. So it's being exported into WebGL and putting. It's still Unity, but functioning on only works best on Firefox. So I'm not sure the web version you're talking about, Kyra. Are you talking about WebGL or something else?
Yes, VR is based normally. VR is based on WebGL and JavaScript.
Okay. So you are exporting like a WebGL version that works with a headset on the web. I see. Okay. So that's quite curious to. I wonder how many visitors you get, because I'm not sure how many people would have the headset at the moment.
Well, I think you mentioned Mozilla Hubs, right? So
Mozilla Hubs. So that isn't exactly that is VR plus first person shooter style. I think so. I'm not familiar with Mozilla Hubs.
Yes, I mentioned Mozilla Hubs because it's very easy and it is easy then the artwork, the VR artwork, is very easy to share. But it is suitable for making group exhibition because
Oh,
it's very easy. It just drag and drop content inside the platform, and you have done with a few way to interact. It's not, of course, like scripting in Unity. You have not all the interactions that normally you can do or you can have with sensors in Unity. No.
oh, right. Yes, yes. I went to Google. I have seen Mozilla Hubs before. Sorry, I forgot what it was for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what you said was right. If you were to use Mozilla Hubs, it's way easier to just quickly throw together an exhibition, but then you wouldn't have a lot of control that that Unity would give you, like a lot of weird interactions that you might want to do. You would have more control if you use Unity and export it in WebGL. So it's completely building your own platform from the ground up.
Yeah, and Debbie was right, because the big problem is the headset. This is the only problem I see in making a native app, because a few person have an headset at home.
Yeah, I think in a way, like earlier I mentioned, it's also about content. You know, perhaps, you know, even right now the goggles, like even the goggles, they've reached a point where we don't actually perceive, even if we improved it more, we may or may not perceive an improvement in the resolution. So the tech is all there. Now it's already shifted to people have to create the content for it. So the thing that people are saying, I don't want to create it because there are not enough headsets, but there won't be enough headsets if people don't make the art in in that medium, so that people will buy the headsets to see all the stuff that is you know, proliferating in the medium. So it's a bit hard because I think at work I teach in interaction design, which I'm trying to move towards also thinking a lot more of the embodied interactions that people have in kind of immersive space. So you know, I mean, thinking of that as an educator, how to explain it to students, you know. But you know, even then, when we talk about showing the work to the public, showing the work to others, the headset problem occurs again. You know, we have to, and it's not easy to say I will make it now I've decided to make my not VR interaction into my existing 3D game. It's not that straightforward. It's not like just like swap the controller. You would have to have a lot of consideration of how people supposed to interact. And I can imagine that Shao, when doing this, because I know he had the hand, the squatting, there were a lot of different kind of ways of doing it, right? He had to think of all these take time to develop. And the web version would have been so different. Thinking of that, the possible interactions were so different. That all takes time, you know. Yeah.
Isn't there a program where you can turn your mobile into as part of that goggle element? Because I've seen a friend done it in Korea.
So that's
I don't know whether it was something that he made himself or it was something that's available.
That's you mean the Google Cardboard, which I think Eugene also and Cheryl will probably have worked with Google Cardboard as well, right? Because
yeah. So it is a button. You have to code it in, and to make it VR enabled for the Google Cardboard. So it will be an additional button that you put at the side there that converts the game into like a two camera kind of thing, so that it works for both. It will split the phone into two screens like that. So it's like similar-ish kind of image. Then once you put it on, you're inside the VR world. And there's another way if you don't want to use the Google Cardboard, which is almost like a Google Street View kind of thing, where you just look around with your phone as if you are there. I do some of those. I did one exhibition with complex.com. It is on Instagram as an AR museum. You can go to Complex Instagram and go and check out their filters. One of them is it's still there. It's called the Meme Museum. So they are doing one. They curated 8 memes to represent 2020, all the horrible things that happened in 2020. So it is like a virtual gallery. that you look around just using your phone. So no need for the headset. I think that is a huge, the headset is a huge barrier to entry. Even if we are using a Google Cardboard, like what Debbie is showing, that one is for Google Cardboard. Not a lot of people have the Google Cardboard. So we made one that does not require any headset. You just use your phone and you look around. And if you switch around to the selfie mode, you can actually see, I think I should actually share screen and let y'all see. It's the
Excuse me, I back in a few seconds, okay?
Oh, okay.
I back in a few seconds, 1 moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I shall share screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Eugene.
The Google Cardboard, yeah. Also, some of them have a little magnet that is used as a thing, but you know, there's also Samsung Gear, which has a. You got the video.
Do y'all see that?
Yep.
This is like I'm in selfie mode, exploring the gallery as an Instagram camera, so you can look at all the artworks and then you can share it online like you're at a museum. So we have the wall text also, like how you would have wall text in real galleries like this. It was quite fun to see this kind of commercial brands commissioning this kind of work, and it's not cheap. Commissioning me to.
Can I check why is there always a pedestal?
Oh, the pedestal. Oh, because we were trying to like mimic the real life, so we could definitely do away with the pedestal and make the artworks float, make the artworks defy gravity and all. But because this is still quite a new thing, we don't want to like completely shock somebody with like lots of things hanging around everywhere. Although it's completely possible in digital, you can have things defy gravity and all, but we don't want to shock them too much and still present to them something a bit more familiar. I think once people are more familiar with the works, then the global vocabulary of doing this kind of web Instagram exhibitions can evolve to more wacky stuff. So at the start, because this is the kind of the first in the world, we don't want to completely shock them. So we give them like standard brick and mortar looking kind of gallery first. This is like the start of the global vocabulary lah.
So this is like done entirely like a virtual setting. It's not like from a real show. So like
there is no real
they
show.
just give you like the images of the artwork and you like put it into an environment, and then you can have a option of having yourself like guiding in the show.
And it completely exists on Instagram, so there is no need for people to download a new app.
Maybe I can add to that as well. Looking at that, I think that when you design this kind of space, if you have nothing tying it back to reality, when you make something weird, you want to make something weird that no one knows what's the difference anymore. So I can also share a screenshot from a work I've made in State of Motion, which is another show, also a gameplay video. But you know, even like when I built this shop, this fake shop of my Debbie things as part of the game, a part of the video. But you know, I spend time also making it look quite like a real thing, because I do also want it for people to hold on to it, and then when you see something that busts it all, then there's a difference. If not, there's no contrast. If everything's like crazy, then it's like, okay, everything is crazy, there's no reality anymore. But it's only interesting when there's a contrast, you know. Yeah.
When does your thing burst into craziness? For mine, for the museum, right, it is when you look at the artwork of the puppy the dog saying this is fine, then suddenly the whole place bursts into flames. That's the little Easter egg that we put in there to add the little bit of craziness. So what was your craziness in your one?
So mine is that I have a big gallery of all the works I've done in the last 10 years, and when you walk too close to them or touch them, then bloop, you fall into this hole into a room of that. Imagine it's something weird. Yeah. The portal to another world. But it actually takes a lot of time to build that, so there are only to be realistic, I only managed to build like what 6 rooms. You know, it takes a long time. So that's also the bar to building it. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that we have to put in a lot more effort to put in these surprises, and then these surprises which are like kind of secret Easter eggs, actually like double your workload time. You actually put a lot of effort just to make that surprise a bit more crazy, and then some people might even miss it. So yeah, we have to be a bit subtle about it, but we actually work very hard on those little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And it takes some discipline to hold it back, to like not present it first to the although you know that it's very cool and you put in a lot of effort into it, it takes some discipline to like, okay, we don't show it to the audience first, we hold it back, and if they discover, that's great. If they don't discover, that's fine, and that's fine also.
Yeah. I mean, for me also, you know, I think this now we mentioned Second Life as well. I've also played Second Life for very, very long, more than 10 years, 10, I don't know how many years, maybe more than 10 years already of Second Life. And it also has this capacity for showing the world and multiplayer as well. And the only problem is that recently I tried to, even, you know, every time I try to host a Second Life party, I was going to consider also whether I could build more works in Second Life, but I realized that getting people to just come on that platform can take so long. Like just the onboarding of them getting into the app took so long that everyone sort of died before they got there. You know, they just couldn't deal with the controls, the flying, the falling, the walking. Everything was like a problem. Though, you know, so you know, trying to find a way that people understand to navigate these spaces. Even now, when we make the game, I know when I make VR games that are self-locomoting, people have like the sim sickness problem. Oh, this is too dizzying for me, you know, because there are all these problems with the moving and walking and transporting yourself in VR.
Yeah, so it is still important to kind of like based on people's like real life expectations. So start with something they are really familiar with, and then eventually they get used to it, and then they can, you know, open to something more like crazy.
Surprise them.
I see.
It's interesting. I think in parallel to like the art world back in the days when, I mean, even now, like some people just don't go to art galleries, museums, because they feel like it's completely foreign to them, right? Like they feel like they go in and I don't understand and I want to find meaning and people need to explain. Otherwise, I don't find the whole motivation to go. And it's for you know, the VR is like some people even have, because they do gaming and they have those devices, even though they're not into art, like they're slowly tapping into a different realm. And even with what we're you know, where the art world is moving, maybe perhaps more people who are not usually going to art galleries may be exposed to art, which I find interesting. You know, because they just have those available, because it's less risky to just click on a link and view something. They don't have to go all the way and see and be disappointed and feel out of place.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think I mean, these days I think people are becoming more accustomed to being online and being in a game environment compared with like, you know, going to the gallery and don't know what to expect. So I feel that, you know, the game interactive aspect could be, you know, a gateway. You know, we always talk about how to promote art to a wider audience. So yeah, perhaps it is a good way to introduce them. Yeah.
Maybe it's just the vocabulary, like Eugene said, was not, you know, there yet. So there's certain things that still needs to maintain, you know, audience comfort zone to ease into that future, so to speak.
But that's maybe a risk that the online thing will tend to be entertaining, you know, to draw people attention. That's I'm still thinking and worrying. But then on the other hand, I think because the world is kind of collapsed in the physical thing, so the virtual world is only the place normal function normal. So I think the online the virtual extension of how to experience art is become necessary now. Yeah, because it's the function place.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of different aspects, because at the same time, I think as an artist, like I think artists needs to focus on the concept and how to tell, as you say, tell a story, right? But at the same time, there's like all these interactivity things going on. So you know how to have work on in a VR environment. At the same time, you're still able, the work should still complete on its own with their own concept. I think this is also like very important, as for an artist who has not been working in in a VR or online or with technology. So I think at the same time, I think with the concept is still pretty important.
Maybe to add on, like, there are very few artists who actually have the technical knowledge, like Debbie or Eugene or Chiara, that can actually create the works by themselves. Because when I collaborated with the Make Studios to do the My Ink painting machine, and they were using Touch Designer, and it was like so interesting, but it's like so complicated. So I told them that, can I learn? Like, can I find a school, here, or some lessons? Then they say, no, nobody is teaching Touch Designer in Singapore, but it's so popular in the UK or the States, and it has been around. It's not a new program. Technology is there, but we don't have the information, or you can't learn Touch Designer on YouTube. It's like very complex and kind of beyond me. So I feel that moving forward in the future, if we want to push and do more digital works, we cannot like depend on ourselves to learn. It will take years and years of getting that knowledge. But if we are open and we collaborate like this show, Otherworlds, then we can actually go there faster, and we have to let it go. If we just want to do everything on our own, I think I don't know how long it will take.
That's
Yes, here. Oops.
Oh, go on, yeah.
From you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say that this is an interesting topic, because I'm sure maybe also, Chiara, you have something to your own thoughts on it also. But I feel that's one way to put it, that that maybe collaborating with engineers and developers might help bring us faster, so that artists can still focus on the content and the storytelling, but also maybe at the same time, I as someone who who's also quite invested the time to try to get to know the technology itself, I think it's also worth like where I teach interaction design, but we do also all the electronics, Arduino, all the if you wanted to do it, we know enough of the technology to understand what is possible and not possible. So it doesn't mean like I would know it on an engineer level. I don't know how I won't know it to that level. I won't know how to write the algorithm for your particle flow, for liquid or anything. I won't be able to do a machine learning algorithm from scratch, but I might be able to understand how the library could be integrated into my project. Enough, that would be enough for me. Like, I'm not going to build the ocean mechanics from scratch, but I'm able to integrate it on my own and tweak it enough to get that visual effect that I know I want to get from it. So I think we don't have to aim for everything, to know everything about it. We still treat it as artist and designer, but to know at least what is feasible enough, then we can design around those feasible things, since it's also still ultimately about achieving that vision. Yeah.
Also, I also find that in contemporary art, it's like a lot of different artists, they don't do all the work themselves. They may start with a concept, but at the same time, they have other collaborators. So I think it is this collaboration where I feel that very, relevant as well. Yeah.
Maybe I can offer a different perspective, because for me, I want to do everything myself. So like in my personal works, I get down and dirty and build everything, like the shaders. From an engineer perspective, I'm a very good coder, so I would actually do it myself, and I do see the huge advantage in understanding the platform yourself and executing it as an artist also. So like Shih Yun said just now, the control that she lost when she passed it to Shao to do it, there was a certain amount of control. I think if she was to do it herself, then maybe she would have found like a substitute and be satisfied with a new thing, like or changing the concept altogether once she has discovered it. But having the technical know-how is also uh, a huge advantage, huge advantage. And if nobody knows how to do it, like for a lot of stuff that I do for the Instagram now, there is not enough tutorials online because the platform is so new. Nobody has done it before, so it is a lot of figuring it out on your own because there's no YouTube tutorials. And there's a joy in that too, because when you figured it out and you publish it online, you know that nobody else in the world has figured that out yet. You are the first person who has done that.
I think this is the exciting part for collaborations. Either you how to say, you expanded your potential by your collaborator, or you realize your constraint and work within it. So it really asks us to be more. One thing is more professional. Can you prepare more to communicate? Another thing is to be open up to break your routine and how to react to it. So actually in this project, I always ask Shah, what do you think? Is it make sense? Is it possible to work? And so actually it's keep changing, but it give me kind of excitement. I mean, both of us to, wow, it can like this, it could. So maybe outcome is not totally by foresee, but it is really an experiment to, I really enjoy this collaboration.
Yeah, yours was a lot of different things. A lot of different
Because
things.
I'm so excited to work with
Yes,
programmer.
you explore
And then
everything. You explore everything.
and Shah always say, yeah, I can do it. Wow, I'm so surprised.
No, I think to add on, it's like Sui Fong is like a child, that is, holding the brush, like, for the first time and playing with paint. And then the medium now is not paint, but the medium is like VR, digital. So she's like, Sui Fong is going crazy. And I think like Shao is also going a bit crazy. Yeah, doing this collaboration.
Not really crazy, just many changing. And many things want to just, try.
Chiara, there was something you wanted to say?
Yes, in Italy, in Europe, it's the same situation. You can't find anyone teaching Unity or Touch Designer or any difficult software. The engineer can understand because he studied C++, okay, and many other programming languages. But for us, it was very difficult. So I learned. I don't know, Debbie, if you learned your own, or maybe you did a course for Unity, but I learned Unity in 3 months with some tutorials. This was very difficult in the mid-90s because there wasn't anything related to media art, and there was only a few specific books in the libraries or in the bookshops on C++. So I cannot learn anything before after 19. I started learning when started online tutorials that allowed me to do that. So at the university where I teach also digital video and digital applications for visual art at Fine Art Academy of Rome. I am a strange figure. I am a strange kind of a person because anybody else can teach Unity for art. I'm using a certain technology that normally is used to make video games to do art. This is very interesting for students because they have the opportunities to learn how to do virtual reality art, implementing lots of controls and interactivity. And wondering if Debbie too
yes,
of me more or less with teaching.
It's funny because I know where you're coming from as well, because it's also
I'm also self-taught. I didn't study in a school or uni. I mean, I did my master's after I really started doing all this in a way. So it wasn't like the school taught me how to do any of this. It's more like picking it up on your own, keeping notes on what you're doing, keeping good documentation as you learn all the things you need to realize your vision. In the school where I teach, it's a polytechnic in Singapore. So it's actually, its mandate is to be a lot more practical. Like the students that come to us are supposed to go straight into the workforce. That's all, so we have to prepare them for working, as a designer, ostensibly. So for me now, I do teach the practical side of it, of the UI UX, of development, web development, all of that. But on the side, I say, hey, you can also use these skills to make weird things, and I suggested them the ways that they could, at least you graduate with a practical thing. Worst case, you just become a web designer or, that. But if you decide to be an artist, you could do that too. So because I don't want to give them false hopes, because it's really hard life as well to make art sometimes, So, for me, maybe those are the two sides of how I've approached it, as someone who has also worked in commercial design, but also for me, my art practice is a huge part as well. Yeah.
When Debbie taught me, it was 9 years ago, and she didn't teach like that. I think when back then 9 years ago, when you taught me in my school, it was more of a fine art school. It was more of teaching us ways of thinking rather than the technical skills. Although you did touch on the technical skills.
Difference between university and maybe a polytechnic, teaching in polytechnic.
Yeah. You were allowed to go a bit crazy with us in NTU. So we were already doing wacky projects in your class.
Yeah.
So do you miss that? Would you rather do that or teach the Singapore Poly?
Well, teaching in polytechnic, like I say, it gives me it gives it some grounding. I mean, it gives us a wider range of students, and I think the students come from much more wider economic, social status bands. Students who are maybe quite disadvantaged to all the way to students who are privileged. I think in uni you see a smaller band of people who make it there. They normally already.
So uni is the privileged people, yes.
I would say, yeah, to make it there, something their lives have gone, so that it made that possible for them to go there financially, time-wise, having space to do the work and everything. And I think in polytechnic, I see a wider range of students. I know it's not just only about that, but I appreciate that the students may come from very different backgrounds, and they're there. They don't know why they're there even. In uni, you're like, you either uni you went there for a specific course. In poly, it's like, what is interaction? They don't even know what it is. They're like, I don't even know why I'm here. Feeling sometimes, and they're almost like kids in Singapore because they're age 6. They're still like kids. So it's I realize that parents also often have this pressure to make children do something practical, but then have a fallback plan with the thing. But I mean, to an extent also, I still try to make sure that while I teach I'm teaching a practical thing that also has a practical function. That's where the skills come from. And if they want to make a competent project, really they want to make a proper technically competent project, they can do that. And then if they want to go weird, it's like you learn the piano all the way, then you decide, I'm going to learn, after I do this, I'm going to do something completely experimental. I throw away all the rules now. I'm going to throw away the rules now that I know them. And I think it's a lot more effective way of approaching the technology. Yeah.
Anyway, since the coronavirus doesn't permit us to visit exhibitions physically, I took the occasion to rethink in the approach of the artwork in a different way. I am now able to appreciate the work of art with a different time of fruition that I don't have, for instance, when usually I go to an opening and I am surrounded by crowds, by friends, etc. This is the reason why in many cases I beg to see the exhibition, because at the first glimpse, it's not enough for me because I have too many distractions. And the plus valorem is that we can enjoy the artwork, establishing an intimistic dimension with it using virtual reality. technologies, whatever, Unity, Mozilla Hubs, etc. Maybe I'm thinking that maybe it's time to look slowly, think carefully, and take our time in front of a work of art. We can dig and ask ourselves what produces a certain emotion in front of an artwork and why. During that lockdown, I participated in different shows, but it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult. I miss the human contact, of course, but to survive the situation, I implemented a yogi motto. If you can't go outside, just go inside. And I say, after a few weeks at home, I started asking myself, how COVID can take me to better understand by remote, isolated, our lives, and in particular, media art, which is of course a large part of contemporary art. Due to the lockdown, the internet, for me, is no longer only the window on a digital oddity space that we know, for example, to make a research or for connecting. Internet became an opening to our private lives, discovering spaces which before the pandemic were not shared. For example, I see the bedroom of Debbie, for example, the garden, the fake garden. Anyway, I can see pieces of your life. And this is the way I'm using your baby, your lovely baby too, your cute baby. And this is the way I'm using internet. Internet became a window of our sociality. So it's my thoughts on the pandemic, and it's very difficult. It's still very difficult here in Italy because we still have all the museums closed, and the pandemic found us completely unprepared because we quickly had to use diverse digital tools that we saw, of course, but we didn't use before now. For us, is being a real digital revolution and a big mess, a big chaos, digitizing our life in a few months, and in any field, including, of course, the art world. You have to know, sadly, you have to know that in Italy, museums don't have an inclusive digital network. For example, only 35% of museum users have a social profile. 44% don't have a mobile-friendly website, or 50% don't use a website. So for sure, COVID pushed us to bridge the technological gap, and we are working to fix this gap. So what gets into crisis? It's a model, in particular our Western model, because we are not a technological advanced country like like Singapore or China or US, for example. So COVID demonstrates us that our system is very fragile and not powerful enough. So in Italy, the art world needs rethinking in digital marketing and new strategies of connection and communications. So we understood that digital is a treasure, will be our real material for the creation of contents for online sales, for example, seeking a new way of imagining the presence. Are welcome to the blended mode that we are starting experimenting, for example, in university. I am teaching sometimes in blended mode. So I go into the university and I teach online alone, but streaming all over my students. Maybe having a few students instead of having 50, 60 students, I have 10 in the classroom, keeping distance, and I teach blended mode, for example. For example, also the famous gallerist Gagosian is organizing online bids, searching for a new way to experience the art online. So I think we have to improve our marketing strategies using digital means more than ever and wide range. Traditional art market needs that. Like net art has been sold always online since 20 years. We must extend this model to the traditional art. To create new opportunities of fruition, we need to bring art into unexplored places, like net art did more than 25 years ago. Those known places can become museums, like net art. I know I came from net art because I did net experiments over 20 years ago. So it's a model that I know very well, and I experimented a wide range in a sense.
Thank you very much, Chiara, for that sharing. It's very insightful. And I think on the note of the commercial market, what the examples you've mentioned of Gagosian and the net art, I think I'd like to draw us back to a question I've been pondering, because Singapore Art Week 2021, it happens at Gillman Barracks. And the context of the Gillman Barracks is actually a venue of a former military barracks by the British colonial office. And then later on in the 21st century was turned into a commercial gallery hub in a way. There's been quite a few criticism about how this location, because it's a bit far off, not so easily accessible, it becomes kind of like a white elephant project. But still there are big galleries have come in and they left, but then that also created some sort of a space or ecosystem for local smaller galleries or commercial experiments, almost in a way, to take place using these Gillman Barracks physical space. So after hearing, I mean, it's close to 1 hour and 45 minutes of our talk. It seems like we're all in consensus that, because, yes, I mean, COVID-19 is something that nobody has imagined. It really impacted our life tremendously. And we really don't know what it's going to be like in the future with the various different waves coming back in different countries, in different continents. But yet, nonetheless, I feel like we're still very hopeful and very positive, which is great. I hope this talk also helps to seed that positive energy, to our audience here and whoever's gonna be watching this video afterwards. So coming back to that commercial aspect, because as artists or art professions, we can't disregard this aspect of the art ecology, the art market. So what do you guys think? Perhaps what problems do our current commercial art world face? And maybe how we can imagine what this new commercial art world to be. Or if you don't have comment on the commercial side, you can just talk about the art side, your art making practice, your exhibition sort of trajectories in that sense. I would love to hear from all of you.
Okay, maybe I can begin. I think for a lot of collectors and gallery clients, they're still eager to go to a physical exhibition where they can meet the people, the vibe and the energy of being at a physical exhibition space. So I think the problem right now is I think there are a lot of people who are really eager to see art. They cannot go to travel to another country. So I think what they do is like they focus on what they have in their own city, such as in Hong Kong. There was like a Art Basel Hong Kong Spotlight in November, where it was only focusing on the Hong Kong galleries. But I think the Hong Kong collectors, they are very excited to able to see or finally able to see what's happening in the city. And for those who cannot come to Hong Kong, I mean, the gallery can rely on, sending them online materials and PDFs and all that to see works. But that we are talking about kind of more traditional art form, like oil painting and things you normally see in in a art fair setting. Yeah, but I think it is the the energy of like people meeting. Art is just things that people who go and see and enjoy. But at the same time, I think people really want to gather and be able to understand the artists, get to know them in person, go to studio visits. So I think with the with the online meeting rooms like this, I think there are ways we can share more aspect of the process, such as we did a lot of interviews this time between the artists, and then we can post it online. I mean, things like that. We might not put such a focus before, because we always think that, you can always go to meet the artists, or you can meet the gallerists, or you meet the client in person, but when times that it didn't happen, or it couldn't happen. So I think we think of like kind of new creative ways to like document and to promote a gallery or the artworks.
Yeah, we need to extend the digital model to the traditional art market, so as that we can work using all the digital means we need. So, for example, I don't know if you heard about many websites selling digital art, like for example Sedition, or many other platforms selling only digital, not translation of tangible artworks to digital. So we have to look at this model and comparing to make sense with in the traditional art market. You can't make an art fair only in physical way. You have to extend the model of the art fair also digital. It will be more inclusive for sure.
Yeah. Maybe my response is also, thinking about how on earth whether there are different ways to be distributing the art, or even when people buy or sell art, especially digital. I don't really know. Sometimes I don't know when people ask me, how do you treat these works that you're making now? How do you sell them? How's the unit of it? What is it? So how how would I actually handle it as well? In terms of, how would someone buy the work? I haven't got all these answers. It's not as straightforward as the other things I make. That's one thing I hope I haven't figured out, and I hope maybe to figure out, or maybe that we think a bit more sort of how do we distribute this kind of digital art. But also another thing on my mind is often I think Jennifer, you also wrote it, you also mentioned this as a question you had in your mind. How do we measure whether people experienced it the way we expected it, or even for as an artist, your intention. So what is the artist's intention in making it in this form? Sometimes I say, I want to tell a story that changes people's minds, but how do I know if their minds will change? How do you measure that? Do we look at how do you ask the people? Do you measure it somehow? How do you find out as well, so that you know whether the art has achieved its intentions? Yeah, that's hard.
For example, in this closure period of cultural places in Italy, we are observing how is reborning the public art, for example. and with diverse projects of street art, site-specific, psychogeographical guide board, flaneur experiences, and the urban installation, museums, facades, like interactive video mapping on facades. But because we are not able to manage online marketing. So we are going to public again. So all the public art projects involve people in presence, but of course safety, because anyone can keep the necessary distance one another. So we are not able to manage online sales and marketing. Go to public, go to the streets. It's an alternative that, of course, is useful to enjoy art again, but it's not useful to keep the problem. Of course, we have to rethink in strategies of marketing using all the online means available. This is the only way to figure out the gap and the problem.
For me, I'm not represented by a gallery, so I didn't feel the change of what happening, in this pandemic time. But I have an imagination is because now the first when you encounter with the artwork is by this situation is mostly with the monitor, with the internet. It becomes synchronized in a way that the encounter of the art. So the materiality of the physicality of the experience become less important. So I will question: is it asking us to back to a basic question? It's about your concept. It's more about if your idea is it to convince others rather than the other thing. So I will have this kind of imagination. Will conceptual art be more can sell more now if we in the art market? Just a curious, yeah.
I think for the art market, right, it's very interesting for us who are on the fringe of technology, making stuff that is new. Because for me, I never think about whether my artwork can sell. That's never the thing. Then Debbie was talking about, how do you, the stuff that we create that are games, that are filters, how do you, if a collector wants to buy it, what do they actually buy? Do they buy the equipment?
I think it would be like addition, right? So I mean, it would be like a box set, and then you make different, like say 10 addition, and then you add like different things in each addition.
Exactly.
Right?
If it is an Instagram filter, how do you addition that? That's like what?
Yeah.
But you can do you take it off the web and say only so and so can use this filter from now on?
Yeah, I don't know if in games where you can like pay and get like a special feature, like some special filter you can have in your game like that. I don't know if it is like a direction, right? Can it be like that?
Okay, if in a game setting, maybe those are skins for your avatar that you can buy. This week there was a discussion with C Focus where they featured one digital art collector. So he was telling about how his name is Wiyu, Wiyu. I think Jennifer, you might have heard of him. He collects digital artwork. So what he buys is like the artist's work, and then for the equipment wise, the artist will give him the list of equipment, like the projectors needed, the TV screens needed, and then the responsibility is on Wiyu to go and buy the equipment and set it up. Not by himself. The artist will have like a team to go to his house, to wherever he wants to put it at, and then start to set it up. So that's how he buys the artwork. So it is quite interesting, I guess, for people like me and Debbie to create works. If we think about wanting to sell it, then it's like what do we even start thinking?
Technology also.
Sorry, please.
I was just going to say technology advances in such a high speed, like more and more nowadays, that maybe something that you had collected just 2 years ago can become obsolete today. then what kind of format is that artist going to, is the artist who sold him the work gonna like, I'm gonna give you an update?
Yeah, exactly. I think what I liked about Wee Yu is that he buys the artwork. Some collectors, they buy it because they see as an economical investment. But for him, he is not interested in selling the artworks. He wants to strengthen his collection. That is in his own words. So I like his style of it's not about the money. It's about his taste. It's like he's wearing clothes. These collection are his clothes that he's expressing himself.
Of course, it's possible to collect digital art. And when you sell digital art, you are selling, first of all, the concept of the artwork. Then the artwork comes with a certificate. And the word is to conserve, preserve. There is an interesting question. What is the art life of a virtual component, etc.? And the word is to preserve. What I have, what I try to doing by now is to found a department on conservation and restoration of software artworks and net artworks at Fine Art Academy of Rome. I'm trying to do that with my director. So software restoration is a difficult challenge and requires conserving all the media and the digital platforms used to re-emulate the show or the digital artwork for the future. Should I say you that I conserve all the past media I used for making art since the mid of 90s? Because in my studio, I recreated a kind of media archaeology. 4 years ago, I tried to restore a software artwork with no success, trying to make it running on a new computer with new software classes, etc. Then I remembered that I was conserving the old PC where it was created, so I was able to exhibit the old artwork again and again and again. So I conserved everything. And Eugene, you can understand me better than, because there are a few possibilities to show an old software artworks. Or you conserve, or you try to emulate on another platform with other software classes, which is very difficult, of course. It's not easy. So we have to create departments able to restore digital artworks, or the history of art will lost a big part of contemporary art, which is the media art.
Yes. As from a museum point of view, not just with my current employer, but other institutions as well that I've worked with, I mean, that there's often a very striking lack in this sort of knowledge and expertise for conserving, whether it's net art, maybe we're even talking more simply, more like old school tech art, like video art, like Nam June Paik CRTVs, for example, So it could go from that mode all the way until right now in this time. I'm only aware, I think Vienna has a program. Is it Vienna? I think it's Vienna has a program on conserving media, new media arts. Japan and Korea seems to be quite a pioneer in this field for Asia, because definitely we don't have this in Singapore. It's a big headache in Singapore. I'm not sure about Hong Kong.
No, I don't. Not as I aware of. Yeah, something.
Yeah, and
quite
even
new.
And for example, in US museums use the conservation model created by John Ippolito. Do you know John Ippolito was studying the whole life in conserving new media, since video art, since Nanjum Pai, etc. And he created this model that you can find online, and many museums like Guggenheim, MoMA, adopted this kind of conservating model, and when the artists sell the artwork to the museum, feel a kind of form leaving instructions on the conservation and on the possibilities to re-emulate and to reborn the artwork in a certain way, according with the museum, of course. And it's very interesting. If you ever look at this model, you are both curators of museums, so it's very interesting, but it's very hard to implement here in Italy. We have, in Rome, we have at our National Gallery, we have a big collection of kinetic art. Kinetic art should be simple to restore because you only need an electrician to restore some pieces of kinetic art. It's not easy. It's not easy to restore, and it's not easy also the maintenance of this kind of artworks. So the result is that we have the collection in the Caveau, and they have done only 2 exhibitions in 20 years with this wonderful collection. It's a pity. Anyway.
It's a work in progress.
Yes.
All right. Well, looking at the time, we're at 4 o'clock now. Quite a lovely closure, I think, for us. We're still very hopeful, very positive towards art finding its own purpose and identity within this crisis, but also beyond this crisis as well. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And I urge the audience with us, if you haven't seen the show, please go take a look at it. It's at Gilman Barracks in Singapore. It's closing tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the evening.
Is Shao still there? Is Shao?
Yeah, Shao. Yeah, maybe Shao can say hi. Shao, our
Hey, Shao. Hey, Shao.
Developer of
He's
the
a-
space.
Yeah, so he did our programming and he worked with each and every artist. Yeah, all the 8 artists.
Very good experience.
Hard work. Yeah, hard work. Yeah. Maybe to end off, I would just like to quote John Lasseter. He said this in the past. He said that art challenges the technology and the technology inspires the art. John Lasseter, co-founder of Pixar. So, yeah. Jennifer?
Yeah, I guess with that, we will end this panel discussion.
Yep.
See
Thank you.
you.
Thank you,
next time.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Joy Kim.